Fan Philip from Saskatoon sent an email, longtime fan of Russell Quant. He says, I'm not a writer, I can't quite put my finger on it, but this new book seems to be written in a whole new way. He's talking about your style. He says he's quite enjoying it. What are you doing differently from the Quant books?
Yeah, well, even though he's not a writer, Philip brings up a really good point, which it'll be interesting to see if other people who know the Russell Quant books will see this. There's a big difference in how this book is written. So Russell Quant, for those of you who have read it, might know that that book is written from a first-person perspective. It's written as if I'm talking as Russell, which means that every scene of every book of the Russell Quant series is told from his point of view. He has to be in that scene. The Adam Saint book is a mixture. So there will be some chapters that are told from Adam Saint's point of view, but there will be other chapters or other parts of the book that are told from almost an omniscient point of view, where as the author, I know everything. So I'm able to see things that Adam Saint doesn't see. There's pros and cons to doing both. Like with the Russell Quant book, everything being told from his point of view, you get a very personal perspective of that life. Everything about that book, everything that he goes through is from Russell Quant's perspective. So as readers, you get to know him very, very well. What the restriction of that is, however, he could be wrong about certain things. He could be lying to you. And writers do that. There's some books that do that very well, where the reader is tricked into thinking that just because the main character is telling you something that is the truth isn't necessarily always true. But everything has to be from his perspective. So, for instance, in the Russell Quant books, there's all these other characters, like the mother character, like the neighbor character. All you as readers really know is what Russell really thinks about them. You may not truly know who they are. In the Adam Saint books, I get the opportunity to expand that, where in the chapters or in the parts of the book where I'm not telling it from Adam's perspective, I get to show you characters from their own perspective, or how other people see scenes. It, in some ways, can develop a much richer type of storytelling. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. I was saying to someone earlier, the next couple of months are going to be interesting for me to hear from my existing readers, to see if they like this new style. Obviously Philip did, so that's great. Anyways, I would like to hear from people, but only if you like it.
Yeah.
We've got a great one here from Marilee from Universal City, Texas, and she submitted this via Facebook. Because I've never been there, the only things I know about life in Saskatoon I've learned from your books. Will the Adam Saint series also take place there? You've done wonders to probably get the name of our city out.
The Dairy Queen on 8th Street is world famous.
I think they were doing okay before. There'll be a different tenor to it. With the Russell Quant books, there was always a big Saskatoon component to those books. Russell always began and ended in Saskatoon, and then did his traveling usually in the middle. With Adam Saint, I think there will be that Saskatoon component, but again, he's a man in turmoil. Like, things are changing in his life. Part of the basic storyline of this first book is that he really has forgotten about Saskatoon. He's not a family man. The last time he was home was when his mother died 7 years ago. Sorry. You're just too famous. I had to get rid of you.
I think you're going to have to ground him.
He's a bad boy. But the title of the book sort of gives you a bit of a hint. It's When the Saints Go Marching In, which of course is the iconic song, but the Saints as plural really does mean something. This isn't just about Adam Saint. You're going to meet a number of saints. There's his sister, there's his nephew, there's his father, who are part of his life in a way that at the beginning they're really not part of his life. And there's a battle going on there, but they live in Saskatoon. So whenever I need them, there will be Saskatoon components. And I think part of me, just part of my DNA, is going to force me to keep Saskatoon in it. I'm working on the second book of the series, and you know, boom, there's Saskatoon, like in chapter 2. So I would say there's a good chance it's Saskatoon.
Oh, here's an interesting one from Miss P. Sanchez from Saskatoon.
I think there's technical difficulties.
Miss Sanchez wants to know, boxers or briefs?
I didn't see that on my list of questions.
She was directing that to you.
She knows.
All your books to date have a smart sense of humor about them. This new series sounds like it will be more of a thriller or suspense. Is that true? And if so, will there be humor or will there be lots of guns and death? And this is from Sarah in Cleveland, Ohio, via Facebook.
What was the first part again? The first question was, was it a thriller?
Boxers or briefs? Yes. And tell us about the sense of humor for the Russell Quant series. So is this going to be humor or are there going to be guns and death?
Right. Well, with this book, I'm certainly shifting genres a little bit, first off. So Russell Quant is truly a mystery series. Like, the books are all called, like, the Moose Blushi, Russell Quant Mystery, Flight of Equity, Russell Quant Mystery. When the Saint goes marching in, you'll notice on the cover it says it's an Adam Saint novel. These books are meant to be a little bit more of a thriller suspense area. So definitely a bit of a more serious bent to it. I was, I remember who I was talking to at the beginning of today. I think the humor aspect of it is very similar to the Saskatoon aspect of it. It's just part of my voice as a writer, which is kind of interesting because I never thought that's the type of writer I would be. When I first started off writing a dozen years ago, I thought I was going to be a serious, dramatic writer and that the books would have a lot of angst in it and tough things were going to happen. And I kind of thought that's what I had written until people started giving me feedback. And I think I've told this story a couple of times, so some of you will hear this, but people would come up to me and they'd say, I read on page 213 and I just laughed and laughed and laughed, and I would just kind of look at them and go like, and I'd say, thank you very much. And I'd go home and I'd read page 213 and I go, I guess that's kind of funny. Because I'm not, I cannot tell a joke to save my life, but I do love to laugh, which is a thing in our family, and I think that really shows itself in my writing. So again, this is going to be a challenge for me as a writer because my intent is for the Adam Saint books to have a bit more of a serious tenor to it. However, the very first review, even though the book's just out, there's been a few reviews that have come out, and one of them talked about the underlying humor. So it's just there. So
you're just a natural.
I guess so. But there is going to be death and
guns?
mean things.
Well, there's guns.